do you want Draymond Green back at any cost? Because to me, there is a price point where it becomes too expensive to really bring him back. Because if you are $17.5 million above the luxury tax threshold, that puts you into that second tax apron. And I believe the luxury tax number for the upcoming year is about $169 million. So if the Warriors next year, at the end of this upcoming season, are at $186 million in total salary, they're in that second tax level apron, which means you lose your mid-level. And when you want to sign a veteran minimum guy, you can't do it for more than 2 years. There are many restrictive penalties in terms of how you can build your team. So we'll get into that part of it because you do have a little bit of a solution. I know it's a possible solution.
Yeah, you're still paying a lot more. You're still paying out of pocket more.
And you're paying deep in the tax.
And you'd be paying more tax on top of it. And I get all the reasons to avoid that apron. There are many. The Warriors would want to do that if possible. But I think we're still too far away to understand their ability to do it at this point for next year. For a year from now.
No, agreed.
In the summer.
And you make a good point about this year where, they could fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
CP3 doesn't stay healthy, and Klay plays like he did in the postseason.
Steph misses 30 again.
Sure. Bad things can happen to any team, but when you have an aging team, a team that is on the decline, if they suddenly go 39-43 and you're the 10 seed and you lose the play-in game, this conversation is completely different in terms of what you do next offseason. I agree with you.
Is there a number, though? And I understand your reasoning as to why there may be a set number with the second apron and all of that.
Right.
What's the number for you? Like, if there's a number for Dre, is there a number where you would say, okay, Dre, sorry, go to Detroit. Sorry, go to Sacramento and make them a championship contender when they really aren't one?
Well, it's interesting for me because I see it two ways. On the one hand, it's not my money. So I don't really care in terms of it costing me money to pay Draymond Green. But the other side of it is the reality. And if you get up to 3 and 110, which is, 36.66 a year, and you're going to pay Draymond Green for 3 years, and he's going to make $110 million over 3 years, well, that will keep you in the second level tax apron. And that will hamstring how much you can pay Klay, and that will limit your ability to make this team better. I want this team to continue to be relevant and a winning team as long as Steph Curry's going to be here. And that's 3 more years. Whatever happens after 3 years, this has been an unbelievable run. 4 titles.
You'd tell him bye-bye. You would tell him bye-bye?
Who, Steph?
Draymond.
At 110? I would say yes, but you can't now.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what your number would be because I'm on record as saying there's no
there is no
there's
number.
No number.
There is no number.
Okay.
But and there's no number. However, if you give him 3 and 120, let's just say that it goes through the roof and he gets $40 million.
That's a gulp.
I can't imagine that it goes that way. But again,
there were people that were gulping at 3 and 90 a month ago.
For sure. And I set the over-under on Monday at $89.99 million in terms of his 3-year total value. And Mark Willard, my partner, who's off today, he took the under, but now that seems like a laughable line. I think the line has moved to $99.99 million, and even that feels a little bit low.
Well, and there's another part of this, too, and the 408 and the Comcast Business text line taking exception with me. JD, you're so wrong. Let Dre walk. The offense will be more potent with another scoring threat. That's how bad Draymond's offense is. Well, how are you going to acquire another player if Draymond walks? I think there is a misconception among some in the fan base that think, well, if Draymond leaves, you've got $27 million to go spend on anybody. No, the Warriors are so far over the cap and in the tax. If Draymond Green goes, Draymond Green's gone, and your path to be able to replace Draymond Green would be veteran minimum players. It would be no different than if you had Draymond Green on the roster because the Warriors are so far over the cap. So that's in line with it's you're paying to keep Draymond, or you're playing out this season without Draymond and no replacement, which is, I think, in part why Steve Kerr and Steph and so many others are so adamant, and that's the only way the Warriors can contend for a championship is if he's on the team. One, it's part of everything he's brought for the last decade.
Right.
But the other part of it is just the literal nature of if Draymond goes bye-bye, you cannot replace him. So you're done.
I suppose you could sign and trade him if you were able to coax that.
True.
But you would have to have a partner team that would be convinced that Draymond Green would accept said trade.
Fair.
And not,
That's fair.
Not put his feet in the sand and fold his arms and decide that he didn't want to go. From the 415, Dibs, it is your money, the cost of going to a game. Oh, right. You don't pay to go to games. I do pay to go to games, but the idea of it's not my money because they're going to charge what they're going to charge anyway. And Draymond Green being here for $110 million is not raising ticket prices, and Draymond Green not being here will not lower ticket prices. So those two things are not intertwined, in my opinion.
Not at all. And yeah, I mean, it's if you think a $150 ticket is with Draymond Green back at $110 million turns into a $85 ticket without,
no.
Good luck.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go back to the days of click and roll at Warriors.com and it's a great timeout, then yes, ticket prices were different when they were not a championship team.
Now, that I would say that $150 ticket may become an $85 ticket by 2026 if the Warriors win 35, 27, and 18 games in the next 3 years.
Exactly.
But that's a different
and that will be without
calculus.
Steph, Klay, and Draymond there. 888-957-9570. Do you want Draymond back? Is there a price point that would make you not want Draymond back? We're going to go to the phones. We got a bunch of people waiting to talk. We'll start with Sherwin in Fairfield. What's going on, Sherwin? What do you think?
I say let him walk. And let's go with Kuminga in his spot, see if Kuminga can flourish. Kuminga is more athletic, just like Sonny and Guru were talking about earlier. I mean, get a kid a chance. I mean, I think just let him go. He's a cancer right now to me inside the locker room based on what happened last year. And those youngsters that are still around on the team, they haven't forgiven him. And then not to even mention what he just did with Wiggins, putting his business out in the street. So I say let him go.
Thanks, Sherwin. I appreciate it. I don't necessarily think that he is a cancer to this team. What he is he's probably closer to being an ulcer, JD, where it's always there, where it can flame up, it can be a problem, but when it's not an issue. At times, Draymond Green can hurt you with his antics, his technical foul propensity, stomping on opponents, knocking out young backup two guards. We could go through the whole list of reasons why Draymond Green is a negative to your franchise, but then the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. The fact that he is a point forward, he's a triple single player, yet one of the most impactful players on an incredible offense. And what does Steph Curry do offensively without Draymond Green? And I do look forward to the Chris Paul, Steph Curry syncopation, with Chris Paul learning what Steph Curry likes in terms of how you get him open, where you find him. Draymond Green is a Steph Curry savant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. And I think as long as the Warriors can keep Chris Paul healthy, that deal has the potential to be pretty good for the 1 year length of it, to where he can stabilize the bench. You can put him in a finishing lineup if you want. He can play with Steph. He can play with Klay. I think he helps the young players if those guys like Kuminga are going to be out on the floor as he leads the bench unit, which has been so highly publicized that he would. Although I guess it's also been hinted at that maybe he would start, although I don't think that makes as much sense. They've got a couple of months to figure that out. But I think there are a lot of ways Chris Paul helps the Warriors in the short term. The risk, though, is that you can't keep everybody healthy enough to win enough games in the regular season to where you don't want to be in the same boat that you were in this year where you're chasing
it.
God, all year. It's like, We're going to be the 7 or going to be the 6?
True.
Can they get to 6? Is it going to be 9? Oh, my God, they lost another lead. Like, it just, and their margin for error without Steph is gone for the moment. And that was the one part I know that's been highly discussed, and Anthony Slater wrote about it, and it's a number that I mentioned, that 14 and 12 without Steph. I mean, we have to anticipate Steph Curry is, and I would say expect that Steph Curry is going to miss a third, anywhere between 25% to 33% of the season moving forward.
And Chris Paul, too. And, Draymond Green's probably going to miss 15 to 20%.
And I think the question, though, is with Chris Paul, is can you get Chris Paul, as crazy as it sounds, by playing him fewer minutes, can you get him to where he can play closer to 70 at that point? Yeah. Because he's going to be playing 20 to 25 minutes and not 35 to 40 minutes.
And I was saying yesterday, and I believe this, that you're going to miss Jordan Poole's minutes more than you're going to miss his points. Because points will come.
He's like an innings-eating pitcher, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole led your team last year in minutes played. He also led your team in scoring in terms of total points scored, balls in the basket. He scored more points than Steph Curry. You can find somebody else to put the ball in the basket. Can you find somebody who's going to play all 82 and 30 a night? JD's in for Mark Willard. We'll keep going to the phones. 888-957-9570. Do you want Draymond? Is there a price point where you say, all right, Dre, you've got to go because it might cost us Klay Thompson in the future or not? Tony is in Oakland. What's going on, Tony?
Hey, man, I think we need to re-sign Draymond. I say 105 for 3. We're good to go. Kuminga can't replace Draymond. He's not smart enough. That's why he couldn't play in the playoffs.
3 and 105, though, Tony. If you give him 35 per, that could cost you Klay Thompson for next year. Are you willing to say bye-bye to Klay after just one more year?
Well, we paid Klay for 2 years that he didn't play. Klay needs to take a pay cut.
Man, thanks, Tony. I'll give him your phone number. I'll give you his phone number, rather. I don't think he'll call you to get that message, but you go ahead and call him, Tony, and say, hey, Klay, it's Tony. I know you're making 43, but we want to pay you $17.5.
No, but it might be more like 28.
Right.
And that's the part where I do tend to agree with Steiny in the sense that there does seem to be something going on with Klay. And we don't know for sure. It'll come out over the course of the next year, but it does seem like there's something to, I think, a refusal to accept the fact that he's not the player that he has been throughout his career. And I think that was the biggest problem that he had this year as to why he was so wildly inconsistent, why the highs were high and the lows were low. They need him to be just a steady player.
Klay, yeah.
Like his overall numbers, and you pointed it out, his overall numbers pretty good. But that's not how the season played. Like if you said JD was Klay Thompson, a true representation of his overall numbers, and the answer to me would be no.
No, you were great too at Bonvino. We had the Warriors Summit, and you actually had the hottest take of the day with your Klay was the problem take.
He was under his numbers. His actual impact was under his numbers in a big way, and the blunt truth to it was the fact that his bad games were automatic losses because he was so bad that you couldn't recover from it. And so that carries a different weight than, he hit 300 threes and
led the league.
He still shot 41%.
21 a night, too.
And
the numbers were good.
The raw numbers were pretty good. I also found it interesting that the Warriors, Steve Kerr was so quick to put on Klay at the, didn't come in shape and need to overcome that fear of injury in the offseason, getting your work in to come back ready to roll the first or second day of October.
And I like Klay in a contract year scenario because
I do too.
And he started so poorly last year, maybe a summer of work, and he knows that he wants that last bag, so maybe he comes in with a little bit more effort and a little bit more work ethic, knowing that this is a big year for he and the Warriors.